I did the wrong one again every time. Here we go.
When shadows fall and spirits howl, zombies stalk and madmen prowl, monsters lurk and victims shiver. Thrills and chills they will deliver. Arise from your graves and get in the mood. It's time to join the spooky dudes.
My cues are bad, but it's okay. It's Spooky Dudes. We're live here tonight. It's episode 15, as I'm told by the title I typed earlier. And I'm joined with a very special guest, Mr. Chris Kelly. How's it going, man?
Hey, hello. Everything's going all right. It's a good day today.
Yeah, absolutely. Day closer to Friday. And we're talking about horror stuff. Chris and I have been talking a while. We just started talking about having kids and horror movies and how I can't remember names and all kinds of fun stuff before we hit the button here.
It was like 45 minutes, and I thought that was the actual podcast.
He's like, man, this is the loosest format.
Like it's good to me. I mean, why not?
Well, in the to be real with you, like the format of the show isn't that much tighter than what we were doing before. So you aced the test. You're all good now.
Actually, I failed. I forgot to hit record.
Oh, so. I failed.
Like whoops.
So I just got back from Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
The Netherworld. You guys got like one of the best haunts in all of the universe. Apparently, one of the best haunted houses, and that only runs like September to, I guess, November. But they have an escape room, like horror themed escape rooms down there running all year, and they're the best. I don't know if you like escape rooms, but they're the best I've ever been in. Like the production quality is super good.
Sadly, I haven't been to the Netherworld. It's usually like every October. October is my favorite month because not only is it my birthday, but it's also Halloween, and Halloween's always been my favorite holiday, right beside Christmas. It's kind of hard to if I love Christmas or Halloween more, but either way, I go all out for both of them. But I every October I'm always working, so I can't ever go to the Netherworld. This last Halloween, my wife and I went to. We live out in Douglasville, which is the suburb of Atlanta, and we went to a local Halloween place, which is like it's kind of like a tour, like a gold mine, a former gold mine of the area. So
That's
they have
cool.
like this. It's really neat, actually. It's really very kid friendly, and they have this little train that goes through the whole area. And they do a Christmas thing, and they had a Halloween one. So we were like, of course, we'll check it out because we love to check out things that are more like local, smaller. Because usually people put a lot more heart and soul into them as opposed to the bigger production type of ordeals. And I'm not knocking Netherworld at all because I think what they do is gorgeous. We were there, and it was really cool. Like, people were following the train, and the guy's like, "Hey, what's your name?" And stuff like that. Pretty cool. Like, which one your car? I'm like, the red one. My car is not red, but it's pretty cool. It was really neat. I liked it a lot. And the one guy was, I remember the one guy. I'm a big dude, by the way. I'm like 6'2.5", almost 6'3", and they had a guy who's walking around as a creepy clown. Who was Art the Clown from the Terrifier movies.
That's a scary look.
And not only that, but the guy, I mean, the top of my head was probably at the guy's shoulder. And so it was this massive dude walking around. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he just like came right up behind my wife and I. And he's like, hey, how's it going, guys? And I was like, oh my God. Like, it's pretty rare when I meet people that are taller than me. So whenever I see that, it's like, holy bananas.
Oh, I mean, I'd say so. I'm 5'9", so I'm just average. I'm right there, but yeah, dude, that's pretty. If they're sort of dwarfing you, then that is scary.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, but it was all in fun. Like they had this little haunted house there too. And of course, because Stranger Things had just come out, and then of course they were playing Metallica, and a bunch of other. What was really funny, actually, so whenever we first got there, we could hear they're playing like horror type music coming from the haunted house, and they
Mhm.
played Rob Zombie, they played Dracula, Living Dead Girl, and then Let the Bodies Hit the Floor by Deadpool, or was it Deadpool? Was that them?
Drowning Pool.
Drowning Pool. There we go. And then they played, was it Internal Primates Forever by Mudvayne? And
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
and I was like, I was like, I was like, yeah, this is Chris Kelly's high school soundtrack. I love this. And then they were like, yeah, it really scares the kids. And I was like, well,
Who's got the Jinkos and the giant wallet chains? Bring them out.
were you a Jinko guy back in the day?
I don't think I actually had Jinkos, but I had like these off-brand big giant jeans.
Yeah, Junkos.
Junkos, yeah, or something, like I had maybe one pair that was I don't even think it was Jinko, but it was some brand name, maybe Kickwear or something like that. I don't know.
I think Kangaroo was one of them. I want to say that. I don't know that for a fact. So,
Dude,
but I was 100% a Jinko guy back in the 90s. And if anybody wants to know what that looks like, it's not anything fashionable or even remotely attractive. And it's weird. It's mind blowing that anybody even bought these gigantic pants that were size 42 at the bottom. Yeah, that's right. So a lot of times the pants were bigger on the legs than they were on the actual waist. And I had them all. And I mean, God bless my parents for laying down the cash for this, because there's no way in heck I would ever do this now. I mean, they were $120, I think. I had them all. I had the Fat Boys, Twin Cannons, Mug Shots, Crime Scenes, Skunks. I had them all. And I remember my Mug Shots cost $120. And that's in like 1996 money.
That is so offensive to me now as a parent. Like, there ain't no way I'm buying my kids a single article of clothing costs that much money.
No, I mean, I'm God bless my family for doing that. Cause I mean, now I'm like, did you see Wrangler's pants went up to $30? Heck no, I'm not buying it.
I remember my first pair, like my parents, I was really into Corn and Limp Bizkit and all that stuff. So I never,
who wasn't, right?
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, these guys look so cool. They have these gigantic oversized shirts and gigantic oversized pants. Like now I'm like, it actually makes you look less in shape if your clothes are really, really loose. It actually makes you look, bigger. Like it's not a slimming effect, right? And so
you look deflated, I think is the kind of the term.
I swole up on them Jinkos again. My first pair was like 50 something dollars on clearance at Hot Topic or something. My Nana bought them for me, and because I could sucker her into buying me stuff that she probably shouldn't have, and it worked out. But after that, I was like, I'm so cool. I'm gonna wear these every day. And of course, you wear the same pair of jeans frequently, they're going to tear up way quicker. So of course, they didn't survive very long. But
I had them all. I remember that. My mom bought them for me, and my dad, he was just kind of like, whatever. I don't really. He's like, fashion. My dad was a military man, so he was like, whenever he was just like, look, like I wore fatigues for literally my entire life. You want to wear these pants? Fine.
Fine.
He's like, you're good. I don't care. Like, that's fine. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But
you guys didn't know you'd tune in and get a history lesson on like mid 90s fashion. So
I have a lot of my a lot of CDs from back in that day too. I mean, I have them all. You name it, I got it. Sugar Ray, the Lost Highway soundtrack, Rammstein, Korn's albums, all the Marilyn Manson albums. I have a Smells Like Children t-shirt. So, and I have an original Korn t-shirt from their first album. I bought it. I mean, I didn't have it like back in the day, but I bought it off eBay before all that 90s stuff started making a comeback, because I started feeling nostalgic. Yeah. I was like, why not? I didn't have it back in those days. This guy's selling it for $4. It's like, why not? And I got it. And then now it's like $300. And I was like, holy crap.
again, so offensive with these prices for clothing. People are crazy, man.
I can't.
Like,
Well, I drew. So I'm a pretty big Motley Crue fan, and I desperately wanted to get a Dr. Feelgood tour shirt. Now I'm pretty against people that wear shirts from tours that they've never been on, but when you're talking about something that's so iconic, I
yeah,
feel like you can cut some slack. Now, if you're saying like you have the Europe Live tour hymn T-shirt from 2010, I think that's kind of bogus. But if you're gonna get the old school ones, that's great. Like so, I was like Motley Crue. This lady was selling her Dr. Feelgood shirt, and I was like, oh my god, it's even better that it's a woman that's selling it because that shirt has seen some serious damage. And I was like, I wanted to get this thing, so I was like, I'll gladly pay $30. And she was like, are you kidding me? Like she sent me this message back, like, you've got to be insane. Like this is Dr. Feelgood tour. This was from in LA where this and this happened. And I was like, well, dang, why don't you put that in the post? Like, as far as your post is concerned, it's a picture of this shirt and saying, authentic from the tour. Like, I don't know. Like,
it may have been an earned thing, not a paid for thing.
of course, but I mean, don't sell
So
it then. I mean, die with it. I'm gonna be
bury
I'm,
me with my shirt.
I'm gonna be buried with my Clash records. So why not?
Did you like The Dirt? Did you like the movie?
100%, I loved it. I loved it so much. I don't know if you can open a movie better than the way that movie opened.
It's
that is the greatest opening to any movie in history. It beats Jaws. There, I said it.
wow. Okay, that's bold. I did describe to a friend the opening of that film, and he was like, what? I'm like, I mean, Motley Crue are like, they're all nuts, right? Like, and they're probably like way more calm now than they were because they're just old.
Yeah.
But Machine Gun Kelly was really good in that movie. I'm not a big proponent of that guy or his music or anything, but in that movie, he did a really good job playing Tommy Lee. Did you watch the Pamela documentary? The Pamela Lee or Pamela Anderson documentary. Did you watch it?
Yeah. The documentary, or are you talking about the Pam and Tommy movie?
Yeah, the doc. I haven't seen the Pam and Tommy thing, but the Pamela Anderson, A Love Story, I think is what it's called, or Love Letter.
Isn't it? It's I Love You or Love Pam or something like that.
Something. It's on Netflix. It was like a couple hours long.
Yeah. No, I saw
Super
that.
good.
I thought it was very well done. I think that like over time, like her story, as we all know from being around in that time, that she was kind of seen as the sex symbol, and no one really cared about who she was as a human being, and that really would like bring it down on someone. Like, she really did have something to say. She really was a real person. She loved animals, and she had a great heart. So it was like, it was good to see that happen, and like seeing her how she is now, because she's been drugged through the streets almost, and life has crashed down on her. I remember when that came out, I was working on a movie, and my friend was like, man, she looks terrible. And I was like, no, she looks great considering what she's been through. I mean, it's like, like, people don't understand. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if that happens to you whenever you're that age and you're being used and abused by everybody on the planet until you eventually become unattractive to them and you get thrown away, what does that look like? And we just can't really comprehend that. And that's what really, well, I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful story as well. And I mean, she looks fantastic.
Yeah, I'll go a step further. Say she's held up incredibly well. Like, my wife and I were watching it. Like, man, she looks like great. She, you could go much worse.
Oh yeah, I mean, she could definitely look way worse than that, but she looks fantastic for everything that she's been through.
I gave Chris a terrible intro, by the way, guys. If you didn't read the show notes and the ticker there, Chris is a filmmaker and a podcaster, which is why he and I can probably just go on for days talking about complete and utter nonsense. That is a special trait all podcasters share. But Chris, let's talk a little bit about. Well, first, let's talk about your podcast. classic American movies, which I was telling Chris I just listened to an episode of it, and yesterday and today. That was my shower. I listened to a podcast in the shower with a big speaker that like is louder than the water coming down. So you and Johannes Roberts talking about I love 47 meters down. I thought the first one was brilliant. I wasn't as big on the second one, but
I loved it. I mean, you got Sistine Stallone, who looks like she's the one that's going to save everybody at the 0 hour, only to be engulfed.
When you were talking about, like someone trying to think of movies where someone was bitten in half, and I was like, Deep Blue Sea, Deep Blue Sea.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was screaming at the speaker, like you can hear.
Oh yeah, the Deep Blue Sea. My friend actually, Mark Hoffmeyer, he has an entire podcast series based on the Deep Blue Sea movies. He did a minute by minute, and then he started doing other shark movies. But yeah, I mean, like that's a fantastic one. I love the Deep Blue Sea movie, like Thomas Jane before he was the Punisher.
Thomas Jane's Thomas Jane is I feel like you and I just segue into everything here, but I think Thomas Jane's a multi-talented kind of dude. Like he's been in all sorts of different stuff, right? The Mist and like you said, the Punisher. I mean, he's very good at being tortured for sure. Like being a tortured character for sure. He's got that on lock.
Let's not forget his mustache in Aaron Brockovich.
Oh, that's true. He had the
everybody. Yeah. He's like, I remember when I saw the movie fairly recently, and I was like, "Who is that?" It's hard to take him. It's like whenever you're watching him, it's like whenever you're watching Carl Weathers. It's not Carl Weathers acting; it's the mustache that's acting. It's like you got Thomas Jane's mustache was like that's the thing that really the Academy looked over. It was.
He this is neither here nor there, but he was at a convention in Knoxville, and my friend, I got a buddy who's I'm surprised he's not in here like trolling us in the chat, but he is like a hardcore Funko Pop guy. Like he's ever since they started coming out with cool licenses and stuff, he's collected everything you can imagine, and so his thing is getting the boxes signed by the people that are voice acting or whatever. And so he got a Punisher one and he wanted to get it signed by Thomas Jane, and he went up and got it signed. And I was like, I'm always like, well, how was he? Cause there's something to celebrities, right? Like you run into some of them and it's like, they couldn't care less about you. And then some of them, it's like, oh my gosh, I just met my best friend. And now they're going to forget who I am when I walk away from the table, but still, apparently Thomas Jane, cool guy, doesn't even charge that much for his autograph either. So,
wow.
Cooler than Chris Jericho, apparently. So take that for what it's worth. Much cooler than Jake the Snake when he was in the throes of alcohol addiction and opioids. But that's understandable. So,
yeah. I've never worked with Bruce Campbell, but I've been told he at conventions, his only rule is that he wants to make sure everybody gets a chance to get a picture or a signature with him.
I believe, and his line is always long, no matter the event. I was actually I grew up in the town where they filmed Evil Dead, Morristown, and I think I end up telling this story every episode now for some reason, but I never knew anything about it. And then this kid was like, "Oh yeah, my dad produced this horror movie, Evil Dead," and my parents were like, "Yeah, you should watch it, man. There's this part with a pencil and an ankle, and you'll never get over it." And I watched it. And I was like, "That was pretty good. Pretty proud of my town. Proud of my town." Yeah.
I remember seeing that movie whenever I want to say first or second grade. My brother had rented it. I had an older brother. Okay. I was the youngest of all three. My brother was 4 years older, is 4 years older than I am. And he rented it, and he got it mainly because, of course, at the age, you're like, oh my goodness, anything that has breasts on it, you're like, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Or anything that has a curse word, you're like watching Major League Baseball, hoping that you're going to hear the F-bomb.
When does that stop? I'm 41. When does all that stop? Asking for a friend.
So I remember the front cover, it has the girl, you can see the nice ample bosom, and then she's clawing for her life trying to get out. And he rented it, I'm fairly certain, solely based on that. And we watched it, and I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. I just, because to me at that point, I was still terrified to watch The Blob, the Steve McQueen version, not the later on one with Kevin Dillon. But I was, to me, this is like the most bonkers thing I'd ever seen in my life. So I have very fond memories of watching that. And that was one of the first 4K discs I ever bought, was Evil Dead. Man. Actually, I have the Necronomicon. Whenever, I don't know if you remember this, but it was like 10, 15 years ago. Maybe?
Anchor Bay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got that. You had it?
I had it and I sold it because I noticed the price was pretty good. And then I sold the Sleepaway Camp box set with it looked like a medical kit.
Mm-hmm.
I sold that for like $100.
Damn.
I paid like 15 for it when I bought it.
I mean, to be fair, I would have done the same.
Yeah. I mean, I love Sleepaway Camp, but I love $100 more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, those things only there's a lot of cool factor in them. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of collectibles and everything. I think they're all neat, but it is like after a certain point, you're like, it's a DVD, or you know what I mean. Like, there's gonna be a Blu-ray release that's gonna have a way better cut, and then it's gonna have an interview that you haven't seen, and or you're going to have a behind the scenes footage of Sam Raimi yelling at a PA because the coffee's too hot or something. You're like, oh, cool. Like, I wanted to see that. Or there's going to be I want to hear an updated commentary track, for crying out loud, on Evil Dead. It's the same one from whenever they first released the DVD back in like the early 2000s. And you're like, they're still talking about, well, I hope Spider-Man does good in the theaters. And you're like, wait a minute. We need to have an updated commentary track.
Spider-Man 1 did just fine.
Y'all are
made us
pretty.
all very mad. That cover though, you described that Evil Dead cover. That is like one of the most bait and switch covers of all time. Like, the cover is infinitely sexier than anything in that movie. That movie is like the opposite. It's so grimy,
Yeah, I mean, it's like, sorry for chopping down the wood, fellas, but this movie is not going to do much for you. The front cover is the best thing as far as anything sexual that's going to happen. And you watch it like, the tree did what?
The tree. Oh, man. That's got to be on a top. At this point, I don't know if I'd put it in a top 10 most shocking moments of all time, but maybe like top 10 most shocking moments of like a mainstream, what turned out to be a mainstream movie, right? Like, don't, throw out Martyrs, throw out a Serbian film, stuff like that. That's, probably never going to be mainstream, I guess.
Or Salo, any of those movies.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Good luck. I mean, I remember whenever I saw that, I was like, I don't even know if I want to say the review that I saw. It's like, not too bad if it weren't for the, the whole movie is that. So we can't really X that out, but it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be fantastic if it weren't for the chainsaw and the massacring. Like, well, but have you seen a Serbian film?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought it was wildly mediocre. I mean, I get it. I mean, I totally understand that everybody's like, oh, but this happens and this happens. It's like, yes, it does, but you can very obviously tell it's fake. Now, the flip side of that is, like you mentioned, Martyrs. That is extremely good special effects makeup. I mean, that is way more shocking than anything you can do with visual effects. I mean, no offense to VFX. I mean, I worked in the field for 2 years, so it's very hard work, very, very underappreciated. But it is like with that movie, with the visual effects, you can tell that it's fake what they're doing. Whereas whenever it's more raw and like you look, man, that's shit, like Hellraiser, for instance. Like, Hellraiser's beyond shocking, the original one. And it's like, you wouldn't be able to catch that anywhere anymore. But the remake or the reboot, whatever they want to call it this week,
the Hulu one.
Yeah, I
really
still haven't
watched it. I still haven't watched it.
Ooh, you're gonna like it,
dude. I'm behind.
I watched that first thing whenever I got home, and of course, so like my wife and I usually like we'll watch movies and like she'll pick one, then I'll pick one. And it's been a while since I picked one because I showed her Hellraiser 2. And so I've been watching all the Hellraiser movies basically by myself. They get pretty crappy after they come to America, but the reboot is not bad. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I didn't see anything too wrong with it. And I know that, there was a little bit of quote unquote controversy because like Pinhead's going to be a woman, of which no one really cared. At least the hardcore fans didn't really actually care. It was a bunch of random trolls. And it's like, when no one cares what they think. It's just trolls anyways. But that with Pinhead being back to being the Hell Priest, not Pinhead, which is what Clive Barker had originally called the priest. I thought that gave it a little bit more a better feeling to it. Gave it more like we're watching something that Clive Barker would have approved. But I thought that the movie all around, like they used a lot of practical effects and they used VFX to kind of enhance it, which is the way it should be done. And the way they did a lot of it, like whenever I don't want to spoil it, but whenever you see them, whenever they're going into whenever the person knows that they're going to be going into the box and being surrounded by the Cenobites,
Yeah.
they use a lot of practical effects and it's very well done. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's what it would be like. They don't make it like this big hokey thing, like we're in a room and it's like, it's more like how we're going to do it is it would slowly start to change your actual real world, which I enjoyed. I thought that was very well done. It was beautiful, really.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I need to watch it. I got so far behind. I watched Halloween Kills, what's the last one? Ends.
I'm sorry. No, I actually like the Ends. I can't say that. You didn't? Okay,
I don't like Kills either. I mean,
you ain't alone in that one, brother.
Well, I mean, honestly, like after watching all three of like the David Gordon Green, Danny McBride Halloween movies, I think I don't like any of them anymore. Like,
really?
I thought 2018 was good, and then I watched Kills, and I was like, you just like all of that goodwill you bought with 2018, you just threw in the trash can. Evil Dies Tonight. The kills are okay. The story's ludicrous. This whole mob mentality thing drove me nuts. And then they're like, by the way, we're going to do this weird body swap Christine situation. I'm just like, I'm not in the mood for it. Okay, David Gordon Green, I'm not in the mood. So no, I did not like it.
What I said, my friend actually worked on the reshoots of Halloween Ends, so I got a few little things from the production.
I gotta be nice then. I'm sorry, friend.
No, it's all just work to us. Trust me, I worked on a lot of crap. I worked on stuff that's so bad, no one's ever seen it. And then they're like, and I'm like, well, you're not alone because there's a reason why we never got season 2. But with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends were both shot. Halloween Ends, Kills was shot in North Carolina, as well as the reboot of Halloween or prequel, whatever, of the 2018. And then Halloween Ends was shot more in Savannah, Georgia here. Okay. And that's where they did all the reshoots. And I thought that I liked the idea of there's a new boogeyman. I liked the beginning of it. I thought it was brutal. Like that kid is just like kicks the door open, accidentally knocks the other kid off the balcony, lands on the ground, and the kid dies. And it's not like a pretty death where it's like he gets shot or something. Not being shot is pretty, but you know what I mean? It's not a clean thing. It's like clunk.
Yeah.
So and then he becomes the outcast, and then now he's the boogeyman, and now he has to find another way to go about his life. And I liked that. And I thought that would have been a great Halloween Kills. And then it turns out that this kid is killing. He teams up with Michael Myers. That would be how Halloween Kills ends. And then Halloween Ends would be that, Laurie, the kid, I can't remember his name. So I'm sorry.
Corey.
Okay. Corey. Laurie and Michael all have to square off. That would have been a way more brutal movie, I think so. But I mean, they made their money just fine. I mean, it was obvious that that Jason Blum loves Halloween. They all love the franchise so much so that they actually wrote in part so that they could be part of the Halloween universe, where they take place with the the little kid that runs into Michael Myers, or they, then we actually have the cop that was there as well. And it's like, I understand that they really wanted to do that, but it's just the execution made no sense. And it's like,
No.
okay, so you're saying that Michael Myers was this big hulking human being, and now he has been reduced to basically the Penguin. That doesn't make any sense. And
He's
it's like
just getting slapped around by this kid in the sewer. Yeah, it makes no sense.
yeah. It progressively got worse, and it's like, okay, but I thought Halloween Ends was fine. I didn't. I mean, I liked how they brutally killed him. I mean, again, spoiler alert, Michael Myers doesn't just die; he dies, and it's just bad. But I mean, like them carting him out to being put into a shredder. I mean, it's just. It's almost laughable how they did that, but it's like, I guess that's the whole point in the franchise, because it's kind of like what I say is like, after, I mean, the Halloween sequels didn't really get good after part 3. That's just me talking. I know there's a lot of people that hate part 3, but I personally love it.
I'm a fan.
I love it. I mean, one of my favorite Halloween decorations I have is I have a sign for the Silver Shamrock final processing room.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, we go all out for Halloween, so I have them all. But it just, I thought part 4 was probably the best out of all the sequels post part 3, but that's not saying a lot whenever you have a kickboxing Buster Rhymes. It's like, well, your competition is not very stiff. I mean, it's not. You're pretty, you have young Paul Rudd, who, I mean, it just doesn't look like he even knows what's going on in the movie.
Oh, 6 makes no sense at all. 6 has some weird like incest thing going on. It's
the Mark of Thorn. Yeah.
It's garbage, man. I do love the look of Michael Myers though in that movie, and the way that movie's shot is very Halloweeny. Like it's 4 and 5. It's the best parts of 4 and 5 visually, but like amped up to 11 and just on crack. Like I love the
colors are beyond. Do you have it in 4K?
I do, but I don't have a 4K player. I have a bunch of 4K discs and I haven't invested in the player yet. So I'm just like,
oh man, just wait till Black Friday. That's what I did. My wife and I, we got a 4K player and 4K television and everything, the whole shebang, upstairs and downstairs in our house. And it's because we got it all on Black Friday. I mean, you can buy this stuff for, your tax return. So
nice.
I mean, the player I think was like, it's like a $300 player we got for $150, and then it came with like a $75 mail-in rebate, and they're like, you'll get the money in like 6 months, and I'm like, whatever, like what, it all cancels out. But anyway, it's just the colors for part 6. There's a scene in particular whenever the old lady, I forget, it's like the granny, she's telling the story to the little boy, and the lightning crashes, and it's like, bam, it's like everything hits you at once. It's like the bright blues, the bright reds, the bright everything. And it's like everything was shot very, as I said, Halloweeny. So it is like I did like the coloring of that. I just didn't think the movie was like, I don't know, it just didn't go anywhere. And I mean, I remember watching the producer's cut before. I mean, I had the bootleg VHS of that back in the 90s. And I was like, Michael Myers talks. Like, come on. Like, I mean, how does this make any sense? Like, I don't, it's just whenever he's sitting there and he's like, yes, that's right. Go kill. And you're like, go, this movie.
Well, the baby that he's after had to have been his child with his niece, with Jamie Lloyd.
That doesn't make any sense.
Like the
it's like, well, when would that have happened? Like, I mean, I don't want to see the producer's cut of that. I mean,
I think the producer's cut made it even more like the theatrical cut. I think you could have just been like, this is weird. What, she has a baby, he's chasing it. But in that one, it's like, it is the child of Myers, like it's, it's pretty rough. Yeah. I think
it's like you're trying to connect dots, but the dots aren't there. And it's like, well, we'll draw a dot there. And it's like, well, that doesn't, you're not making a picture. And Dr. Loomis is the best part of him anyways. So he died. Sure. It's like, nothing will ever beat the Tyra Banks and Busta Rhymes, the trick or treat mother effer. And you're like, come on. I had that on my phone for years. Oh my God.
That movie's good for a laugh, but even
It was
H2O, I
made
remember seeing it and going, man, this was pretty good. But then I went back and watched it again. I was like, it's not that great. Like it's, you know.
I still have my movie ticket from H2O. I collect all my movie tickets that I go to see movies on. And I remember seeing it at the time, and I remember seeing the trailer for it, and we were like, ooh, this is gonna be good. And then you watch it and you're like, it's visually, the cinematography is awesome. But then again, that goes with everything Dimension did. And that was, they poured a lot of money into these movies to make sure that they looked good, because when you had Scream was blowing everything off the planet, and that was a Dimension movie. So they had to give everything get that Scream look.
Yeah.
And you had Halloween H2O with the Scream look, and it's like, okay, that sounds like a great idea. And then it's like, where are we going to take it? Well, Lori, it turns out, is a teacher, and her son is Josh Hartnett, and turns out he's kind of a jerk. And it's like, oh, it's okay. I mean, LL Cool J is pretty good in it. I liked him.
Luscious, ripe melons.
Melon, what? Yeah.
Oh, that's the best.
How do you miss Michael Myers' car? I mean, it's the size of a house. I mean, he ain't sneaking up on Ray Charles. Like, come on. That's ridiculous. Oh, goodness gracious.
So we did talk briefly about the podcast, Classic American Movies. You guys can get that on Spotify.
Yes, Classic American Movies. That's my podcast. It's my wife and I's podcast, but she's the breadwinner of the family, and she works very hard. So whenever I have my downtime, sometimes she gets to join in, sometimes she doesn't. But it all started way back in like 2019, 2018, I think. And what had happened was that my wife and I, we were thinking about movies to watch every weekend.
Yeah.
And every Saturday night, she's big into action movies. I don't like action at all.
Really? Okay.
I don't know why. It just, like, when I watch a Michael Bay movie, my brain shuts off. And I can't do it. I mean, I like Days of Thunder, don't get me wrong, but I would try to watch, and I was told I would really love Live, Die, Repeat, the Tom Cruise movie, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. I think it's fun.
I tried. I can't do it. I don't care.
But Emily Blunt.
I don't.
Emily Blunt.
Emily Blunt. Sorry, man. Sorry. I mean, I just don't care for him. I like Top Gun, but that was visually stunning.
What about Predator?
Well, that's a different ball game. I think I'm okay with the science fiction action. It's just like straight action just doesn't do anything for me. Like I did a podcast for Movies on My Mind for all the Bad Boys movies, and Bad Boys for Life, I said, was the most coherent out of all of them, which is true. I mean, like, Bad Boys is just dumb. I mean, I don't mean to say it like that. I don't want to sound rude, but it is a dumb movie. It's just, all of a sudden you got, I mean, they're running, and then Martin Lawrence looks like a jerk. I mean, he's like sitting there making fun of Tia Leone, and he's like, "Oh, is this good enough for you? I'm gonna put this pickle in your soda." And it's like, what? And it's just like, the jokes didn't land, in my opinion. Sure. Bad Boys 2, I mean, just from like a technical point of view, that movie's bonkers. I mean, you're talking about, like, one scene, they're wearing like they're wearing like basketball clothes, smash cut, they're wearing tactical outfits, chasing down the bad guy, literally in the same few steps. But you got the same music going, like, da, 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 da. It's like, it's something that I never really enjoyed.
What about like okay? So yeah, back to Predator, Commando.
Those I can
tolerate. I can tolerate. Golden Age. Okay.
I can tolerate that. I can tolerate like Paths of Glory. I can tolerate those movies, but I just can't get into straight action. My wife loves them. So, anyways, when we were talking, my wife's from Germany, by the way, which is the reason why it's called Classic American Movies, is because her knowledge of American cinema is minimal at best.
Sehr gut.
Yes. So I was like, well, you love action movies. I was like, have you seen Escape from New York? And she was like, no. And I was like, boom, that's what we're watching. So we started watching that. And then I think she was like, well, I want to, the next weekend, she was like, well, let's watch something that's funny this time. And I put in one of the greatest comedies of all time. And I don't care what anybody says, Super Troopers.
Yeah, it's real good. It's
Love
really
that
good.
movie. So we started watching movies like that, and then we called it Classic American Movie Night. And that was my Instagram story, was Classic American Movie Night. And then I would do like the Instagram stories of us watching it and her giving her commentary. Her commentary on Over the Top was like the funniest thing. Like, I got a lot of my friends were just dying of laughter. She's just like, well, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Like, she's like, the guy's name's Master Blaster. She's like, how is he a bad guy? I'm like, you can't tell, he's bigger than Lincoln Hawk. And she's like, yeah, but I mean, they're both going after the same thing, and it's not like they have negative storylines. And I'm like, ugh. So anyways, I mean, best movie.
I love that movie, by the way. I'm a big Canon movie guy.
Oh man, it's the best movie involving child custody and arm wrestling.
And it's got that sweet Kenny Loggins song. They just keep playing it. Meet me halfway.
Yeah. Meet me halfway.
I cried, dude. I cried. I was like, man, this is legit. I don't, people go think that's a cheesy movie, but he turns that hat backwards, just flips a switch.
There's a switch. And, so we used to record like videos for these. And my wife, we recorded one of my wife. She was wearing her pumpkin spice and everything nice shirt, and she was wearing a hat. She turned it around backwards. It was super adorable, and everybody loved it. So whenever COVID hit, especially hit the film industry, we didn't know what was going to happen, where anything was going to go. So all of us were out of work, and I was just kind of chilling. And my friend, he was like, I had already guest hosted on my other friend's podcast, Movies, Films, and Flicks. And my other friend, who does Movies on Our Minds, he texted me and said, well, why don't you just make like a podcast out of Classic American Movie Night? It's like, you and Miriam can sit. My wife's name's Miriam.
All right.
You and Miriam can watch, just watch a movie and then give your commentary on it like you do with your Instagram stories.
Yeah.
And I was like, that sounds like a pretty good idea, because I mean, we're not really doing anything, because she was working from home. She's an accountant, so it's not like working from home is like hanging out. Like, she really has to crunch the whole time. But she on weekends she could still do this, so it was very doable. And then my dream in life, I just had no dreams. One was to make a movie so scary that no one would want to watch it, or at least one person would say, I heard it's too terrifying, I don't want to watch it. Kind of like the Babadook.
Yeah.
And then my other one was, I always wanted. Oh, I love that movie. My wife gave me like a tin poster of it. And it's like a French tin poster. Amazing. And the other one was, I always wanted to talk with people that I admired their work, like heavily admired their work. And my biggest inspirations for filmmaking or music, anything, I always wanted to do that and sit down and be like, please tell me where the idea for, Clownzilla came from in Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I've always wanted to do that. And I was sitting there and I was like, well, I think this is probably the only time in the world I'll ever be able to do this. And I don't think I'll ever probably get another chance. So I think that I'm basically being told by someone up above saying like, hey, look, here's your chance. It's not exactly the best time to do it, but here's your chance to do it. So either do it or don't. And I was like, I'll do it. So then I immediately started shooting out messages. My very first interview was with Anne Carlisle, who did Liquid Sky, the 1983 sci-fi art house horror film, which I think that's the only one in the existence of that genre. But it's a great movie. And I saw that on Amazon Prime. And I remember seeing it at Videodrome here in Atlanta. And I just thought it was a weird looking box. And I was very almost entranced by it. And I watched it and I just thought it was the most bat crazy movie I had ever seen. And it was an interesting premise. It very beautifully shot, intricately done, and it's a great art house movie. Have you seen it?
No, but it's got a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray release, right?
Correct.
I
That was
think
in 2017 or 2018. I can't remember
I've
that
seen
they
the
did that.
cover 100 times. I've never actually watched the movie.
Oh, watch it. It will blow your pants off because you'll be like, they made this movie for what? Like how much money? And it was made in 83 and it was also done with nothing. Like I mean like the like Anne Carlisle was this wonderful alternative model in the 1970s and she wanted to be an actress. So she teamed up with, I think I can never remember his name, but it's like I think his name was Slava, but she met his wife in an acting class, if I'm not mistaken, and they pitched to Anne this movie, and she said, "Well, I'm a model, so all my friends are models. Why don't we just have the movie take place in the modeling industry?" Boom, and that's why you have the movie take place in the modeling industry, and it's very bizarre. It's very weirdly shot. Whenever when you watch the behind the scenes footage of it, it's quite shocking how they shot the whole movie. And then you wonder why, when you're watching it, like, I can't believe they had this type of technology in that time that looks like this. It's so beautiful. Why can't my short film look like that? But
Yeah.
anyways, but it's, I love that movie. I thought it was amazing. So I reached out to her. She quit the industry back in the 80s, shortly after doing Crocodile Dundee, and she said that she wanted to focus on her passion in life, which was she wanted to help people that had mental illness. So she teaches art therapy to people who have mental illness, and I was like, that's
That's
amazing.
cool.
I love that's your calling in life. Can I talk to you about this movie you did 40 years ago? You know, and she was like, absolutely sure. She's like, Vinegar Syndrome talked to me several years ago. You know, I'm not doing anything, sure. So she talked to me for as long as I really could. And that was my very first interview. And I did that for Movies, Films, and Flicks. We did that. We did the episode of Liquid Sky, and then I did that. I did that interview for that show.
Yeah.
And my friend Mark, he was like, "Well, you should just continue doing that because this is obviously what you want to do." So I did. So since whatever movie we were doing on Movies, Films, and Flicks, I would then reach out to the writers, the directors, whoever, to then get an interview with them. I then did we did Out Cold, the early 2000s Zach Galifianakis comedy.
Oh yeah.
Reached out to the directors of that. For some reason, they don't even list that movie on their resume, even though it's a hilarious movie.
A
But
lot
the
of
one
people of a
guy wanted
certain
to talk
age
to me
love
about it.
that movie, you know. I think that's one that
Yeah,
like
it's
people our
usually
age
people who are
are.
around 40.
Yeah. Yep.
Our age guys love it. It's a great movie. So they were very open, or the one brother was. I think the other one was working on something. I can't remember what it was, but the one brother was completely fine with talking to me. He wouldn't stop talking. He loved it. He loved to. He was like, I can't believe you actually want to talk about this movie. Like, oh, it was so much fun telling me about shooting in Canada and how they went up there again to shoot Blink 182's first date video. And then my next interview was a local guy, Michael Bruni and Alex Orr, who did the 2007 classic shot in Atlanta, Georgia, before we even had a film industry really here, or a really well established one, because we had In the Heat of the Night and everything already, and the Dukes of Hazzard were shooting here, and Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2. However, we didn't really have
Classic
a horror.
American movies right there. That's yeah. I love Smokey and the Bandit.
Dude, yeah, I just watched that one. I bought the 4K digital of that. So one of my big things,
good.
and I know I'm going to screw myself by saying this, but one of the things I like to do in my spare time is I like to go on eBay and I like to buy digital codes for cheap. So what I do is I got Smokey and the Bandit for like $2. Now I know. See, that's what I mean. That's what everybody's response is when I say that. It's like, why do you just buy the digital codes? And I'm like, well, it's like $2. And they're like, well, that's not that bad.
I mean, it's cheaper than renting it digitally, you know.
Yeah. Getting the 4K cut. Why not? So I got Smokey and the Bandit the last week. I love that movie so much.
It's
So
really good.
this is before they got before we started getting into more of the those types of movies. In the early 2000s, Michael Bruni and Alex Orr got together and made Blood Car, which is about the gas and oil crisis that was happening in America. So they decided to make a funny movie about it, where the main character is trying to come up with a car that runs on vegetable oil. Of course, he cuts himself while he's making the contraption. Blood goes in, and all of a sudden, we have a car that runs on blood, hence blood car. So the whole movie is about him dumping people into this contraption, which is in his trunk of his car, so his car continuously can run, so he can get the attention of this really of the hot girl of the movie. it's, it's a great
Wasn't there
film.
a show like that too, Blood Drive, where they were like, it was a race though, and they were feeding people to the cars. I remember something on Sci-Fi
right.
Channel like that. It was a series though. I didn't finish it because my attention span is very, very poor. But
yeah, I'm sure. Like I just threw a lot of information at you. I'm sure I got probably like 1 or 2 words stuck. You're like,
wait,
are we talking about Bad Ben?
Are we recording? Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Killer Clowns, Clownzilla.
Yeah.
I got my Killer Clowns up on my shelf here, actually.
No, you should listen to that interview. Those are wonderful guys.
I'm gonna go back and listen to some more, because I really liked that episode. I thought it was really good.
Oh, thank you.
For whatever reason, my phone only downloaded that and the one about The Hangover.
Those are the 2 last ones. Yeah, The Hangover is the one I did with my friend Baruch. Because none of us are working, so I'm coming up with stuff for everybody to do, so to kind of bide our time. So I'm just inviting my friends over to shoot podcasts all the time. So the thing I came up with was, well, why don't we just do the Hangover series? And then when we were done with the Hangover series, the next one we're going to do is Tenacious D's The Pick of Destiny.
Oh, that's fun.
And then my other friend, he does a podcast about Marvel called the Marvelous Nerdcast, and we're doing all of the 90s Tarantino inspired films, which for those of us who remember that time, there was a pile of movies that came out very shortly after Reservoir Dogs, and they were just like Tarantino-esque films, and it was just one right after the other. I mean, I'm sure you're just sitting there going like, yeah, I remember that. Like, it was just nonstop. And the same thing with Clerks. When Clerks came out, that really just ratcheted up all the independent, quirky films. That's how we got Empire Records, which I think stinks. I don't care what anybody says. The movie is terrible.
I still haven't seen it.
Don't. That's just but I just like those movies. There was tons of them, and they just came like Singles, which is a great movie, and there was a whole TV show called 30 something, which was basically all these things wrapped into one. And I loved all that. Yeah, I mean, you had that gave birth to then like stuff like Sex in the City, which is an equally as great show. I just whenever those types of movies, I don't think they really get talked about, mainly because they got shoved to the side. And the only ones we really remember are the Tarantino ones. Like the big ones that everybody remembers is definitely, everybody remembers Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Natural Born Killers. So everybody remembers that, but we don't remember California. We don't remember Suicide Kings or
Way of the Gun.
The Way I did a podcast on that. That's a great, excellent movie.
My wife loved it. Messed up lines Ryan Phillippe says when that girl's yelling at him outside
Sarah Silverman,
that bar.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm not gonna say it right now, but
no, yeah, that'll instantly make this show X-rated.
Yeah. Instantly get me in serious trouble with little boss over here.
I love that movie. Sadly, I don't think those guys really made any more movies after that, because that movie was a massive failure. Because when it came out, Peckinpah movies were on their way out. No one really was interested, and that movie was done as a love letter to Sam Peckinpah. And then it was like, well, no one really was interested in that anymore. So they hit it at the wrong time. And not only that, but it was kind of marketed as a comedy, which it's not. If you watch the trailer for it, you're like, this is not. Yeah, these are the scenes, but you're taking things out of context. Like little things are not. They're not the same at all. Like these things don't even match. But
no, it's pretty dark.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It is good though. That was one of those movies I bought from Blockbuster. Like they had the big stack of VHS they're trying to get rid of. It was like $1 a piece or $2, and I was like, whatever, I'll take it. The Way of the Gun sounds good.
I got my DVD, I want to say from the $5 bin, because it didn't last very long in the regular sale bins.
No, it did not make a big impression on everybody.
No, sadly, and it almost killed off Ryan Phillippe's career, and he was such a good actor too. I mean, he's done so much, but it's like no one really remembers him other than the spoiled rich kid, and it's like, well, he's been in a lot, and it's just I don't think he ever really got. I think Cruel Intentions almost killed him, although it was like a massive success. But a movie was like 25 years ago. I mean, isn't that crazy to think about? But we still only think
Makes
of
me
him
feel
like
old.
that.
Yeah.
I know. Oh my gosh. I remember whenever the new Scream came out, I was like, I still have my theater ticket from whenever I saw the first Scream. And everybody, the people I was working with, they're all in their 20s. They're like, oh my God, you're so old. I'm like, you know,
Beats the
yeah.
alternative. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, everybody was like that when they were that age. I mean, whenever we were all 21, we were all geniuses. We all knew everything, right? We were all
Yeah.
smart. We all knew, oh, well, let me tell you how to make a movie. And you're like, come on, man. But
Well,
yeah.
speaking of making movies, you have made some in addition to your uh, career in movies and television in Atlanta, but you've made some of your own movies.
I have. Home for the Holiday was the very first movie I had ever shot. And the way that came about was back in the day. I don't know if they still do this, but about years ago, they used to have this thing called Crash the Super Bowl, where you would shoot a Doritos commercial for Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they would give you X amount of money, whatever you could shoot this thing. And a friend of mine, his name is Brian Welch, very talented cinematographer.
Not the guy from not Head from Corn though.
No, not that guy.
When I was watching your movies, I kept seeing that name pop up. I was like, "There's no way that he's just hanging around with the dude from Corn, and they're making
I
movies
wouldn't be
about."
shocked. I mean, sometimes you never know. I mean, you never know. Sometimes, like I'm really good friends with a lot of people. I mean, it's a lot of high profile people sometimes, and you're just like, just kind of chilling. Like, yeah, it's my guy. It was me $10. like, you know,
He
like you got gas.
produces everything I shoot, though. I'm like, wow, he's not busy at all with Corn and his, he's like a born again Christian and all that stuff. That's a
so
complete sidetrack anyway,
but so he made a great documentary too, but that's a whole nother story. So we were shooting that Crash the Super Bowl
yeah.
commercial, and I was playing Dorito Man. So we had like this Dorito head that they put on me, made out of a Doritos bag. And I had a cape and everything, and it was so much fun. So we went to go shoot this thing, and whenever we were in some downtime, when we were setting up a shot, my buddy was like, "Hey, I know an abandoned." So, little side note. My friend, he lives in Alpharetta. If you know anything about Alpharetta, Alpharetta is a very rich and affluent area. He was like, "I know an abandoned mansion," and I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you want to?" Actually, no, it wasn't Cool Ranch. It was actually a regular blend.
Oh yeah, I forgot you can see those before I even click on them. This
Oh,
is
I
my
can't.
troll friend Posey, who
Oh,
he likes to come in and troll.
he seems like a nice guy. I
He is
like
a
him.
nice guy. He's got a heart of gold.
Ugh. So he was like, I go to this abandoned mansion. He's like, do you want to see it? And I was like, yeah, what am I? Are you stupid? Yes. So he took me out to this abandoned mansion. They found the blueprints for it. It was built sometime in 1973 or 78. They couldn't tell because the ink had rubbed off. And it was a mansion that was supposed to be built in hey, bye. See you, Brandon. Uh,
Bye.
so we went out there. It was supposed to be built. It was in the middle of the woods, and they stopped for whatever reason. So it was never a completed mansion, and
Okay.
it had as you could see, the very opening shot of Home for the Holidays, which was a picture that I had taken from my iPhone 4, I think, and it looked beautiful. So we were like, let's go inside. And what we're going to do is we're going to shoot a movie in here. And I was like, great. And my friend was like, we'll come up with something here. And I was like, I love the holidays. So I wanted to make a bunch of movies about the holidays, horror films.
I did notice a theme. I was like,
Yeah.
Osterhaza, and I was like, what is that? And then I watched it twice. And I was like, oh yeah. And I Googled it. I was like, oh duh. Okay. And then
I came up with, I originally wanted to do a movie about Krampus. So this was in 2015. So I had just finished with Ant-Man. So this was like late 2014.
Oh, so you've been working on Marvel stuff?
Yeah, that was where
Oh.
that's where I got started. Well, I got started on Vampire Diaries, but then I eventually moved to Marvel.
Oh, that's cool.
No, thank you. But so I just got done shooting that movie, and I was on that one. I didn't actually shoot it. I was part of production. Anyways, my friend was like, "Well, why don't you come up with something?" He's like, "Now that you're officially done with that show, we can shoot something." And I was like, "Great." So I had come up with this idea with the kind of like the Krampus, but this Santa Claus that kidnaps this little girl, and everything that was in the movie I had written out and I had storyboarded on my way drive. I used to live in Buckhead, which is about an hour away from Alpharetta.
Yeah.
So I had storyboarded it all in my head, and then I wrote it out immediately as soon as I got home. So the whole thing was written out in about an hour and a half.
Wow. Okay.
The only line of dialogue, the only thing that was changed was the line of dialogue was originally was "No, you're already home," and my friend said just have him just say "You're already home." And that was it. Everything else was exactly what we shot. The William Tokarski, he was a guy that I had met years and years ago. Whenever we were on Anchorman 2, we were cab drivers together, and we just became friends. He reminded me a lot of my dad. So I think that like that's the reason why he's also a former military man. So I was like, oh wow, I felt like I was talking with my dad. So it was pretty neat.
Hmm.
And since my family's not down in the South with me, it was nice to have him there.
Yeah.
And then he had become famous for doing Too Many Cooks. And
Oh.
yeah,
Okay. I thought that he's the one in the suit, right? The Santa suit.
yes, correct.
He's shown up in like 2 or 3 different films you've made, right?
He's in everything that I have shot, and if I can, he'll be in everything that I will shoot.
He has a great look. I mean, like really like very distinctive facial features, and yeah, not
Yes.
Too Many Cooks. Duh. Okay. Yeah. I was like, man, this guy looks familiar, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So no, and he was like, "I'll definitely come out and do this." He's like, "You want me to play Santa Claus? Fantastic." The whole thing, we shot it in one day. We shot it. It was originally supposed to take place in the living room of the abandoned mansion. However, due to it being shot, it was like 2 weeks before Christmas, I think. So the light, as we know from time, that the sun moves a lot quicker in the winter.
Yeah.
So we couldn't shoot it in the living room because the light would the sun would be like over here, over there, over here. So we couldn't do that. So we did it in the basement. That way we could shoot it the entire thing there, and everything would look completely fine unless you're super crazy about lighting. Everything looked completely fine.
And in an abandoned mansion. I mean,
in an abandoned mansion, the little girl, she was the neighbor to Brian. So she wanted to be an actress. I guess she still wants to be. I haven't had any contact with them, but we just asked her if she wanted to do it, and that's the reason why she got the part. We really didn't audition anything at all. So
that's cool.
yeah, and same thing with the next one, Owl Leg Sign. Whatever. The next one,
the New Year's movie.
The New Year's one. That was a girl that I had met on a friend's shoot, and her and I became friends. And she wanted to be. She's an actress as well. You can tell by her movements and everything. She's a theater actress. She had very big movements, and her eyes are very like she's like
exaggerate. You can see me.
Exactly. She's wonderful at what she does. It's just that's how she acts. And that movie was shot. That was my car, my old car, until I got it. I totaled it. That was my parking spot. That was my walk to from my condo every day. So I came up with the idea with that one. Whenever I was just walking back to my condo, and I was like, man, if somebody was following me, I would be screwed. Like, I wouldn't be able to stop. Basically, I wouldn't be able to stop them because it's like, they would know everything. It's all right there in the open. And then I came up with that idea. I sent it out. I wrote it out. Everybody involved in that, they're all my friends. And all the masks. We originally were going to have everybody wearing Slipknot masks, but that was crazy expensive. And then we came up with that they're all just wearing these plain white masks, and that's because it was cheaper.
Well,
and William's wearing a black mask to show that he's different. He's the one who's in charge. I don't know, but I came up with that whole thing on my entire walk there to my house, and it was crazy to fit that many people in my house at once.
yeah, no doubt, man.
Condo was not that big. It's probably about the size of a regular person's living room, the whole condo.
Oh my God. Hey, you do what you
It
got to
wasn't
do
big.
for your art, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
There's some,
I
sacrifice.
we got my painting of Elvis Presley in the background there, and I was like, whatever. No one will notice.
I love the king.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we just kept cranking them out after that. The next one, which was about St. Patrick's Day, I had written that about banshees and how that they were they would seduce men and then take them away to the wilderness and kill them. And I wanted to use my buddy Derek. He works in the film industry as well down here. And Julie, who was an actress that's down here as well. And then the lady who plays the Banshee, that's Debbie. She's super cool lady. She's just like William, very, very down to earth, will do anything. So she was super thrilled to come out and do something with us. That's how we shot the whole thing. Did that in 2 days, actually. That was the only one I think that took 2 days to do.
Dang, man.
Yeah, we were cranking them out. Next would have been Oosterhouse, which is based on the Pennsylvania Dutch legend of what would be the Easter Bunny, and this would be the person who would then put out eggs or chocolates to have kids go out, and then they would then grab these things, and while that the kids are going to grab the candies and everything, the Oosterhouse would then go and judge the kids. If they were good, they would live. If they were bad, they would get taken away into the woods. And that's the reason why at the end of the movie, they're all being led away because they're all bad children and the parents are waving them goodbye.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. I watched that one twice. I was like, so are they coming back or
Nope.
how does that work? Because the parents seem really cool. Like, yeah, hi, see ya. I was like, oh man. I mean, they're all shitty at some point, but come on, man.
I mean, that's the whole point in fairy tales, really, to just kind of scare the bananas out of these kids. That if you don't do as I say, or if you don't fly straight, or if you don't do things correctly, we're gonna, this creature will come out and take you away. It's like that's the reason why we have Santa Claus. But the next one was Sam Hain, Sanwi, which was not based on the real celebration. It was definitely just something that was kind of fabricated. But at the time, I was really heavily into Glenn Danzig. So I was listening to his side project, Sanwi, which
his band between Misfits and Danzig.
Yes, which I don't think a whole lot of people really listen to because it ain't that good. But I was listening to that at the time, and I was like, where did that name come from? So I Googled it, and I was like, oh, okay. Let me kind of go along with this a little bit. And that I just wrote that out immediately. My friend Coleman was the one who built the whole thing in the backyard, and that was built from things that were found behind the fence.
Oh wow, scraps.
It was just scraps lying around. He found it. He's a great, solid man. All those people involved, they all gave it all that they could. That was my friend playing the dad, Brett Malloy. He's also a fellow that works here in the film industry, and he and I get mistaken for one another sometimes. So like when we go on different sets, they're like, "Hey, weren't you on Blue Beetle?" I'm like, "No, that's the other guy."
That looks really
They're both
good
tall,
too, by the way. I just saw the trailer for Blue Beetle before the Mario movie, and it looked really good.
That's cool. My friend worked on that one too. I didn't really. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, again, action films really are not my thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and Marvel movies, and I don't mean this in any way to talk down about them. I agree with Martin Scorsese. They're not movies. They're like watching roller coasters. You're not really, you know how it's gonna end. There's got like I made that joke whenever I saw Black Panther because it was playing at the Dollar Theater here, and I was like, why not? I watched a bajillion movies there that I could have really not even bothered to watch. But I was
Yeah.
like, whatever, Black Panther's playing, I'll go see it. So I was like, when I was talking about it, my friend was like, "Oh, was it any good?" And I was like, "Well, it's about a guy who comes from some sort of, wealth. He finds problems that are happening in his society, so he decides to take things into his own hands. And then there's another guy that wants to take him out, and there's a whole big battle that's epic at the end, but good conquered evil." And he's like, "Man, that sounds awesome." And I was like, "I literally just described every movie that Marvel has done. Like literally every movie. There's not one of them that is not like that." And I was like, I'm
Iron
not knocking.
Man.
Iron Man's literally the same thing. It's the same movie, and it's the same as the Galaxy, but a group. It's the same thing. And it's not knocking those movies. It's just it's not my thing. I don't really care for it. I mean, I went crazy when I saw Death Metal Zombies. I mean, that's like, it's like it's just Marvel's not really my thing. So it's like
Yeah.
I understand people like it, but it's just not something I'm really going to drone about. But
As a
you know,
as a fan of the subject material, I mean, I see both sides, right? Like, I could see it being frustrating for somebody that's trying to get started in a career in film and be noticed, because you're either the Marvel movie that costs bajillion dollars to make, or you're the A24 movie that costs $50 to make, and you just happen to be real damn charming, right? There's really no mid class, right? It's either high budget, no budget. Um, but as a fan of comic books and for my whole life, and now we can see that stuff on the screen that looks, I mean, a lot of green screen, as you know, probably better than most of us. um it's nice to be able to see that look good and not like ridiculous, like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four, or the David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. um
or the
the
Spider-Man with the tinfoil eyes.
yeah, I mean, it's a good time for comic fans, but I can totally understand the frustration, and it is weird what it's done to kind of the economics of cinema. That impact is really strange. So
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a guaranteed bet, which is it really kind of sucks for the people that like to say like the A24 people, like Robert Eggers. His movies will never be successful unless I think his last movie, The Northman, I think that may have been. But overall, like his movies are not going to make any money, and I don't think that Nosferatu is probably going to make anything either. But it really kind of sucks for them because producers are going to go with the movie that's going to make them the most money, and they know that these movies, the Marvel movies, and the whole recipe is a guarantee. Like they know that people are going to buy it. They know that they're going to sit down and watch it. Like, I mean, none of the like, well, Ant Man, I think, or the newest one, Ant Man and what the Curse of Kang or something.
Quantum Mania.
The Ant Man Quadrophenia. So, even one was like a failure, but it wasn't a failure, not even close. And then like looking at like the actual numbers, or what was it, Black Adam? That turned into a Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other, basically saying, "You screwed this movie up. You screwed this movie up." The movie was a failure in the sense of comic book movie failure, so it means it made 100 million. So it's like you're not talking like these movies are guaranteed bets. So
Yeah.
it really kind of sucks for the independent filmmaker because like you're not going to find that like whenever Miramax was making those movies back in the 90s,
Oh,
those movies are gone. Like you'll never see like another Love in a 45. You'll never see another Truth or Consequences New Mexico. And it's like it really kind of stinks because those movies were fantastic. And now due to like streaming and, everybody and their brother has a streaming service, that when's the Nabisco network coming out? When am I going to get, Little Debbie's streaming, like,
Hey, shout out to Nigel. Bad Ben TV is a Roku channel. Okay.
that is amazing. I think it's like $1,200, I think, to buy your own channel, if I'm not mistaken. It's not that much. I mean, it's very reasonable.
But then you have to program it, man. That just sounds like a lot of work. Like finding 24 hours worth of content sounds brutal to me.
Well, I mean, there's enough in free domain, or you can do like the Monster Channel, who also has been streaming my short films in between showing other movies.
That's cool.
They do. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're cool guys. Like Halloween Jack, like immediately hit me up after I sent him my stuff, and he was like, yeah, we'd love to show your stuff in between, these two programs. But they have like these goofy programs that are just like that mimic like Super Scary Saturday.
Oh yeah, the horror host thing.
I love that. I love that so much, and I love the appreciation and the sheer joy from it. And it's not, it's hokey, but I mean, when would it not be? I just love that.
There's a really good documentary called American Scary that's all about American horror hosts. It's got Gore Duvall, it's got Joe Bob Briggs, Elvira, Mila Nurmi, aka Vampira. It's got Halloween Jack is on there. Like,
that's
apparently
awesome.
He heard about our con too. We couldn't bring him in because we don't have, like, we're booked to the gills, but like, I mean, we love horror hosts. We had Joe Bob at the first one.
That's awesome.
He was a smash, dude. You talk about a first year small event. The line for him and Darcy was out the front of the venue. Like, my wife was their handler for the day. We just did a 1-day thing, and you would be amazed at how much money passed through that line. Like, it was, it was a long line. Everybody was happy. He took all the time in the world people wanted. Class act.
I saw his How Redneck Saved Hollywood bit where he when they did it here at I forget which bar it was, but it was, I mean, if you've seen it, I mean, it is not a short show.
No, it's 2 hours and some change. Yeah. I think I've seen it. I saw it. He had it called something else at one point. He had an earlier show. And then I think I've seen How Redneck Saved Hollywood twice after that. He was supposed to do it at our next con on Thursday, like the Thursday night before, but they canceled on us. So I'm still waiting to see why.
And
if I see them at another con that same weekend, I'm gonna be so sad. Like, I'm gonna cry on my pillow and be like, I can't like you as much anymore. You're bumming me
That doesn't sound like a Joe Bob thing. I mean, at this point, I don't think he cares about money or popularity. I mean, was he ever really? No, I guarantee it's not. Yeah,
they are very interesting though. Like, you've been to cons before, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So, some celebrities, like we were talking about this earlier, like they're just cool and they're super nice and they'll make you feel like you're their best friend in the world. They've known you forever. And by and large, they will give you all the time and attention you want while they are there. But as soon as it's like they clock out the second things start to wrap up. So second they get up from table, ninja vanish. They will just find the quickest way to scatter and get out of the way,
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
You got to admire that though. I mean, it's like, it's work. I mean, you show up there, you do it. And then whenever you give them this time to this time, and then whenever that time hits, that's it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I mean, that's professionalism. I love that. But yeah, the podcast, Classic American Movies, again, it really started picking up steam during the pandemic, and I got to interview some of my favorite people ever. Interviewing John Russo, who you interviewed as well. That guy, he gave me 30 minutes and then that was it.
Oh, did you see you went back and found my John Russo interview?
Oh yeah. I listened to most of your episodes. I thought they were great. Although I didn't agree with you on Brain Scan, by the way. I thought Brain Scan was a great film. But
Did I say bad stuff about Brain Scan?
It seemed like both you and the lady that were talking about Brain Scan were not fans.
There was a lady talking about Brain
Oh wait, no wait. I'm getting that confused with another. I'm getting that confused with Malignant. I loved Malignant.
Oh yeah. I'll give
see,
James.
look,
That's a swing for the fences. I would rather be confused and bewildered than bored. I'll say that for sure. I wasn't bored.
I'll say this about Malignant. All right, so I did Malignant as for movies, films, and flicks. And at first, this is what I said on the show, and I said I'll be the first one to say it again. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was very boring. I didn't think it was interesting at all. But then I read a review on IMDb where someone said that it was a love letter, or James Wan's love letter to Giallo. And then that completely changed my mind on it. I watch it again and watch it with the Giallo mindset, and you'll go, oh, this makes complete sense. Like the lights and the violence and the comically amounts of blood and just how everything looks. The dialogue, like, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I love that movie now. I just think it's great. But I think also one of the main issues is that the first time I saw it in 4K. That is not a movie you want to watch in 4K. That is definitely a movie you want to watch in HD.
No, yeah, you don't want it to be laser sharp. Like, there's no way that stuff looks great under that sort of.
Well, it's because it takes away the love of it. It takes away all the appreciation. It's kind of like when you're watching the older movies and you can see the makeup lines on people now. Like, you watch Dirty Dancing in 4K and you're like, holy crap, like like that doesn't look right. But it's just that movie was great. But the Brain Scan, that movie, sorry, you did that with Eric, I think.
Yeah.
And he, both y'all didn't seem like big fans of that. And I was like, I love that movie. Not only did that movie was written by a guy that I'm from the same area from. So in the movie Brain Scan, Edward Furlong says his phone number. And I remember this because it's been tattooed in my brain ever since I saw that movie whenever I was at the ripe old age of 11. He goes, because everybody's like, oh my God, Edward Furlong, he's in a movie and it looks in the trailer, he doesn't scream. So we're finally going to watch a movie where he doesn't do that. And then of course he screams in it because that must have been in every one of his contracts that he had to do the wow. Every movie ever that he's ever made, he's done that. Including what was it that The Crow 9 or whatever he made.
Oh yeah.
But whenever we saw Brain Scan, he goes, hi, my name is so and so. You can reach me back at 717. And I was like, whoa.
I remember liking that movie though. I don't remember.
Maybe I'm misremembering it. Maybe I'm getting kind of.
I mean, I'm usually pretty.
It seemed like y'all were making fun of it a little bit because of whenever the Trickster puts on the Primus CD, and it was like, I don't know. Maybe I was just listening to it at a strange time. But
Primus is strange.
They're a great band. Pork Soda is still a great album.
So it's probably the best. I think.
The best of all their best of all their albums. It's like Devo's best album was their first one. It's like, well, they had 15 of them, so whenever Edward Furlong says his area code 717, I was like, holy crap, because I had never seen a movie that had the same. Well, they always say 555, but I have a 717 area code, which is a very tiny spot in Pennsylvania. It is not a very big area that I am from. It's you're talking about maybe 200,000 people tops. That's including the whole 717 area. So whenever I heard that, I was like, holy crap. I'm sure I'm making up that number, and I'm sure it's completely off, but it is definitely nowhere near what Atlanta's population is.
Sure.
So whenever I heard that, I was like, oh my God, this guy's from the area. And it made the movie so much more enjoyable to me. And then I found out that the guy actually is from Harrisburg. And I was like, holy crap, I know where Harrisburg is. I live right next door to Harrisburg. And I've been trying to reach out to him for an interview, but he never replied back. However, he's not the only one that's from that area that made a movie in the 90s or the 80s. If you remember Craig Sheffer from Nightbreed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was huge in the 80s and the 90s. An amazing actor. He also shot a movie down here called Invasion of the Space Rock Aliens. Yeah, I think that's right. But that was a fun movie if you get a chance.
Wasn't he in Hellraiser Inferno too?
I'm sure he's in one of them. He did nonstop movies, but then he then later on recently has started doing the American Horror Story movies, where he did a wonderful job playing Richard Nixon.
Hmm.
So he's from York, which is the neighboring town to where I'm from in Pennsylvania. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know how crazy that would be to have that much, like, people who were actually like accounted, like no names that are from the area. It's bonkers.
Yeah, no,
So I wanted to, like, I mean, that's just crazy to me. So to have that in that movie, I was like, oh my God, this movie got 1,000 times better. I love Brain Scan. So
Dracula 2 The Ascension. He's in that. Yeah, Hellraiser Inferno Joseph. He was like the detective or investigator or whatever. I actually like that sequel. Scott Derrickson directed that.
oh man, yeah, he's a great director. Talk about Exorcism of Emily Rose, right?
Scott Derrickson did Sinister, Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah. I love
He
Sinister.
didn't well, it says he's producer, but I thought he directed Sinister.
No, I
Maybe
thought he
not.
directed that. He did the Black Phone too. That was a great movie.
Hold on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he did. No, he did direct Exorcism of Emily Rose. You're right.
Yeah, it's a great movie. He relied heavily on Japanese horror films for that movie, which the lighting is off the charts. If you watch that movie again, I'll love it so much.
It's a good movie. Yeah, I really like that. I get it. I think I was in my head getting mixed up with the Last Exorcism, which is very different from that.
I like that movie a lot.
I'm a big fan. I love that
I
movie.
think the Last Exorcism 2, which is a horrible name for a movie, because how do you have a Last Exorcism sequel? However,
the truly last exorcism.
okay, but this is the last exorcism. I love that movie. The second one where she's like driving down the street and then you're just watching shit just blowing up. It's like, that's so good. It's
Maybe I haven't seen the second one.
Oh, it's excellent. Watch it. It's shot more like a real film, not so much like a found footage, which I love found footage anyways.
I do too.
I've said this story before, but I grew up not too far away from where they shot Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
And I have rocks and little stick men from the actual park where they shot the movie. So they when they shot that movie, I remember when I want to say I was 15. We started seeing all these missing signs popping up in the local supermarkets and everything, and then they all vanished. And then that summer, Blair Witch Project came out. So they did incredible marketing for a very small area. It was from Bethesda, Maryland, I think, all the way to I want to say Harrisburg. So it's like a big area that they covered, but it was very localized. It was really neat how they did all that promoting and everything. But I've been to the town. Burkittsville is about the size of your bathroom. It's
it didn't look very big.
It is not. They actually shot it in the neighboring town because it's that small. Burkittsville is it has that cemetery. It has one road, and that's it. Everything else is the neighboring town. When I went there, there was a church a former church that had been converted into a coffee shop, and
Okay.
it was I went there and I just was having some coffee, and I met a local, and then they told me all about how, like, where they shot it and everything, where everything is, and I went to the park where they shot it. It's not a very impressive park, but the reason why they chose that is because nothing was marked off. So you could literally just look like you were shooting in the woods there.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't really like I don't know if you could ever possibly get lost there. I mean, I was told that they had improved it after the movie had come out because so many people had come out to see this park that they eventually put in jungle gyms for kids. So that
we
was
can afford it now. People come here. We have a tourism industry.
But it's wild. I love that movie so much. But that movie, of course, it got its heavy inspiration from The Last Broadcast.
Yeah.
which is that film that's about the guys finding the Jersey Devil. And it's a
Or
good
is it?
movie as well.
I just watched it. I just watched it for the first time, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Oh, cool. What'd you
I had
think?
never, I like it. The ending ruined it for me.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Why?
I don't want to spoil it for anybody watching, but they should have just, it should have just been what you thought it was going to be instead of this convoluted, conveniently located perpetrator.
I copy that. Have you seen?
I just, I,
Have
did-
you
I was,
have you seen
everything
the
else was so
Collingswood
creepy
story?
though. See
Yeah,
more?
it's a great movie. Have you seen the Collingswood story?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got the Blu-ray from Cauldron. Yeah, no, that one's great.
Oh man, I interviewed that guy. He was a super cool guy, the writer director, and he was very impressed with the fact that I had picked up on everything. That movie is a extremely multi-layered film. There
Yeah,
is so much going on in the Collingswood story. You know that the lady that plays the psychic,
yeah.
uh, she has a website still that's still up and running. That's a fake one. It's like it's a fake website that's of the character in the
Oh,
movie, and you can either see it in English or French. And it's like when I saw that, my mind had blown. I was like, "Did you know this?" And he's like, "Yeah, like it's kind of neat that somebody else saw this." And I was like, "I mean, you have so much going on." And I was like, did you know in October of 2001 that there was a high amount of crows in the area of Collingswood? There's actually a news report about this." And he was like, "I didn't know that." And I was like, because there's like mentions of all these crows and crows being birds to travel in between dimensions and witchcraft. And I was like, all this stuff that you wrote into it. And he was like, "My God, man, you really did watch my movie, didn't you?"
I watched the special features too.
I wish I didn't
it's
even know it was a Blu-ray release until after I had recorded the interview. So
it's a good one. It's from Cauldron. They're the sister company of Diabolic DVD.
mm,
They've been releasing a lot
nice.
of really interesting stuff. That's one of my favorite releases they've had.
I've been
Um,
on an SRS video kick, so
Ron Bonk.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love those. I got I started buying all the Polonia Brothers movies too.
I just got whatever that bundle was. The last one. Uh, I know Savage Vengeance was one of them, and that's a remake of a Donald Farmer movie. Pretty sure.
Oh, okay.
I think he might have been. I think he might have produced it or something. He lives in Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
There's a bunch of film people like around the area. Like Jeff Burr lives like maybe half an hour from me.
Oh, wow.
Dude, the Texas Chainsaw 3 and Pumpkinhead 2. I think he did Puppet Master 4 and 5. I think
Dang.
3 was Dave Dakota, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But I think Jeff did 4 and 5.
Oh man,
And
has he been
Vincent
on the
Price's
show?
last film. No. He's coming.
Hit him up.
He's supposed to be at the con.
Ah
I
man,
said
have
I
him
may
on the
have to go
show.
down and drive him up or something. But
That sounds like a very full moon features type of thing.
yeah, he's very nice, but it's like, can you just sign the contract? No, I'll be there. It's cool. Will you? You
Like that's not
promise?
how that works.
Yeah, Collingswood. They still got the Blu-ray with slipcase. You know, that's another thing, man. Like the modern physical media people just go nuts for slipcases.
I don't understand it. I really don't. But my brother's one of those people, and I'm like, I mean, that's fine. Like I'm like that's fine. I mean, I personally don't care. I want the movie with the special features. I don't even care if it comes with a case. I many times will go out and buy movies that don't have the cases in them or any of the art. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all.
I
Um,
I couldn't I don't really care either way. I mean, if it's gonna cost me like double the price, I'm not gonna do it. But like if it just if I pre-order or something and it comes with it, cool. These aren't like
Mhm.
crappy, like when you'd buy a movie at Walmart and it'd come in a slip cover that's the same as the regular cover, and it fits too dang snug on the jewel case, so you're like kind of
Mm.
tearing it apart every time you get in. Those are crap, but like the Vinegar Syndrome ones and
Mhm.
Severin and stuff like that, though, I mean they're cool, but if somebody offers me $100 for a slip cover, I'll be like, it's all yours, pal. Free
It was like
shipping.
whenever, what was it, Rad? The Rad slipcover was selling for like $200, and that was even before the movie had even been released. You're like,
Yeah.
how? How is that possible?
That's
Um,
my business partner for the con. One of my business partners, that's his favorite film of all time. Rad.
that movie is whatever. Like, I mean, you know,
That dude's coming to they're going to do a screening of it in Knoxville. Like the guy, I haven't seen it, but he's the cool guy in the movie.
yeah.
Um
I mean, it's
I-
tolerable. It's not like a bad movie. It's not like, you just can't even watch this movie.
it's just
Um,
BMX, right? Like it's
yeah, it's nothing too fancy. It was made at the time in the 80s when they were trying to do like extreme sports, and they were trying to show, oh, this is how cool it is to do these things. And you're like, I mean, all right. There was Christian Slater did a skateboarding movie like that, and it was like, okay. There was another one with Drew Barrymore playing the love interest to like a 10-year-old boy. I forget the name of that one. I think Motocross or Motorama. That was it. Um,
drama. That's good.
that it's just it's like, I don't know. I don't really personally get it. I mean, but yeah, whatever. Some people love that stuff, and it's like, that's fine. I love movies like Devil Story. That was a great one. Have you seen that one?
Devil Story?
Oh yeah, Devil Story, 1986, 87. It's a French film. I'm not even sure what the heck is going on in it. I
No, but it's on Tubi, so I can watch it.
definitely watch it. I don't know what's going on. I don't even think the writers and directors knew what was going
What
on.
is this cover?
Uh, it's like you have this lady going on vacation with her husband, and she goes walking off into the woods, and then she comes across a mummy, and the mummy, or sorry, it's a Nazi zombie, and he's controlled by the lover. And then the woman runs away. She comes across a mummy who's also married to a vampire. And it's very weird. And I'm not sure what the H is going on. However, it has got some great violence. And there's a fantastic scene where one of the characters gets run over and the person turns on the windshield wipers. And
Nice.
I died when I saw that. I thought it was amazing.
I
Strongly
mean,
recommend checking that one out.
and it looks like it had a Vinegar Syndrome release on Blu-ray.
Definitely, yeah.
When you were talking about that, I started thinking of Spookies.
Oh, Spookies, yeah, that's forgettable though. I mean,
It's
those movies are like those movies are like the front covers were the best part of those movies. It's like, and I don't care what anybody says. I say think about this with Monster Squad. Monster Squad is not that great of a movie. Just
no, I agree with you. I mean, I love it, but it's nostalgia that I
yes,
love more than the movie, right?
yeah.
Uh,
You remember watching it when you were a kid and it made you feel good, and then you're like, oh, watching it later, like this really wasn't that great. It's like the Goonies. Goonies is a great movie for 13-year-olds. But whenever
okay,
you get
now
to be older,
that one though. Now I went back. Okay, we had a family, catch the family up on movies summer. Like we would go through and pick different movies, and every time I would pick something that was like from my childhood. So I was like, tonight we should watch The Goonies. And I don't remember loving it that much. I remember thinking, oh yeah, it's Goonies, it's fun or whatever. But when we sat and watched the whole thing, like we all really, really got into it. And I was like, I feel like the portrayal of the friendship between these boys, young boys, was like, it felt legit. Like they weren't all lovey-dovey, but they also weren't complete buttholes to one another. Like it felt like when you were hanging out with your real friends and stuff. And I don't know. I really, in hindsight, I think that movie's better than I remembered it. And the first Karate Kid.
Oh, Karate Kid's amazing.
But it starts going downhill really quick after that first one. Like it immediately starts in a downward trajectory, much like the show. Like
The show, I liked Cobra Kai. I think the latest season, it's getting out of hand though.
that's
Like
that's what I mean.
you're
Like
just like,
season 1 and 2 were like
yeah.
really good, and then
Oh yeah, season 1 and 2 were dynamite. Like those movies are just impeccable. Like let's talk about that fight scene. Oh my god, the choreography on that fight scene. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Woo.
Once
So
you get
good.
to Terry Silver, I mean, shit's just
Yeah,
crazy.
but I mean, Thomas Ian Griffith needs to pay bills too. It's like,
He
I mean, and he
does. He does.
still has the ponytail. It's like, come on, like, come on.
We've so at
But
the I keep bringing up the con, but anyway, at the con we've got a stunt man named Nick Decay, and he's Johnny's stunt double. So when you see that kick in the opening scene and him hit the mat, that's this guy. So
oh wow,
I'm super excited about that. He's also in Stranger Things. He's apparently they had multiple stunt doubles for the. I haven't seen the latest season with the Eddie Munson Metallica Master of Puppets thing, but I know I you couldn't you could not be on the internet without hearing about that damn scene, you know. Uh so apparently there's the actor who portrays Eddie Munson, then there's a guitar playing double who's like really good at guitar, he's a young guy, and then there's Nick Decay who's the stunt guitar double or something, and that he did that too. So he was in like two of the biggest, shows recently, which I thought was cool. And he's a
I
stunt man. I
mean,
mean, that's what's the worst bump you've ever taken? What's the highest thing you've ever jumped off of? I got lots of questions.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that could go on forever, especially since he's been. I mean, that's if he was doing it back in the '80s. I mean, that was like, renegade times. Like you could. I mean, there's so many things you could ask about that. Like, I mean, what's the hardest punch? Have you ever been like what's the longest you've ever been knocked out? Like something like that. I mean, that's got to be wild. I mean,
Is your brain okay?
yeah. As can you stand up? That's
Oh,
that's
and I got a bone to pick with you too, Chris, by the way. Chris recently entered a giveaway and won. Speaking of Giallo, my friend Dead Alive Dana had a giveaway. And
Yeah.
this guy comes in there. No, that's really cool. In fact, I think I might. Was it Forgotten Giallo Volume 3? Was that the
Correct. Yes.
Okay, actually I
I'm
already have it.
super
So
pumped.
yeah.
Whenever I saw that, I was like, yeah.
Those box sets are amazing too.
I bet. I don't have any of them, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
If you like Italian trash in a really pretty box, there you go. Perfect.
I am looking so forward to watching that. I love Giallo films. Um, I mean, I don't know if you could call Fulci if he's full Giallo or not, but I'm a massive fan of his. I mean, Mario Bava. I mean, all those guys. It's just gonna be it's so much fun to watch those. Utterly
Fulci,
cool.
Fulci did. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine.
Is it though?
What?
Is Fulci Giallo? That's always the debate.
So maybe New York Ripper.
Fair.
Not
zombie though.
Hell no, not zombie. Definitely not. Enigma, maybe. But that's the thing. My buddy Jason Rudy does a podcast called The Franco Observer, where all he talks about is Jess Franco movies. And I don't know how you stand on Jess Franco. I'm a big fan. My wife doesn't love him as much as I do, obviously. But nevertheless, we were talking about Fulci for some reason, and I was like, man, you know what we should do is break down Fulci's movies by the era that he was working in and just podcast about him, because I mean, if you take every film in his catalog, he's got to have hit just about every subgenre of horror there is. Like, I mean, there's even a horror comedy in there. As weird as that is to say, there's a movie he has called Touch of Death, and I didn't know what it was, and I bought it from some company called Raro Video, which if you order anything from them, it's a real crapshoot if you're going to get it like next week or next year. So, buyer beware, but they are $10 Blu-rays. So, but nevertheless, I was like, oh, a full G movie, $10. Yeah, hell yeah, brother. And I start watching this movie and it's just weird. And I'm like, it's got to be a comedy. Like, it's about a dude who is hooking up with these like widows who have facial deformities, like tons of money and some kind of weird like facial deformity, and then like eating parts of them and stealing all their money. And I'm like, this can't be serious. Like, there's no way you make this film and you go, yeah, dude, this is my true vision. Like, he had to be like sitting there going, this is hilarious, bro. I'm convinced. But he made so many different kinds of movies. Zombie is different. Devil's Honey is freaking weird. Enigma, like I mentioned earlier, is really good.
House by the Cemetery. I mean,
yeah. I like that one a lot. I don't think it's a good movie, but I like it a lot.
That is definitely a movie I think that select people would really, really like. And I like that movie a lot. Not a lot of sense being made, not a lot of a plot either. But man, that is one gory ending.
That weird kid, Bob or whatever.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah.
Just ridiculous, like copious amounts of blood coming out conveniently whenever he wanted them to. It's not a good movie. It's great. There you go. That's my opinion on it. Well, Chris, we have officially went way over my time for the show.
Yeah,
but
I was just looking at the clock and I was like, oh my God, my wife's gonna kill me.
Yeah, same. Well, mine's probably already asleep, to be honest. But I do appreciate you coming on, man. It was great fun talking to you, and
yeah,
we'll have to do this again because I feel like you and I could have just went on forever.
Absolutely, I would love to come on and talk about Eli Roth.
That's it. Well, this next here, I'm writing it down.
If I got the time, I will gladly come back and talk movies. I'm a massive Eli Roth fan, and I am over the moon with the fact that we're going to be getting a Thanksgiving movie.
Oh my God, dude! What a time to be alive.
I mean, we got like 15 years in the making now, and oh my gosh, I'm just so super thrilled, and I love the fact that it's being made. Just like in the image of his fake trailer. So I was like, yes. And so I love how he's being secretive about it so that no one knows. Like, I just love it. And I really hope it's going to be, up there with Blood Rage. I'm so super stoked.
So we'll get Thanksgiving. We got Machete. That already happened, right? Because that was a fake trailer, wasn't it? I thought in Grindhouse.
Yes. So was Hobo with the Shotgun.
We probably will never get Don't. I don't think Edgar Wright is going to come out of his Crystal Palace to make Don't. And then Werewolf Women of the SS. Who knows? Rob Zombie changes his mind like a fart in the wind. He just does whatever he wants. So he could, I guess.
I love Rob Zombie, but man, was that the 31 and the 3 from Hell? No, sir. Like, I thought 31 was just, man, I know it was crowdfunded, and I know that he was just kind of doing what he thought that would make out of 1.5 million. But man, like, that was just my biggest problem with Rob Zombie movies. And it's not, I do love Rob Zombies, but I think House of a Thousand Corpses is one of the greatest horror films ever.
100%.
It's easily,
I love that movie.
Easily in the top 20, easily. I think Devil's Rejects also fantastic. That's another great one. I love his Halloweens. I think they're great. I think they're great visions. And the reason why I say this, look, I saw your face.
You and I can never talk about Halloween films, obviously. Or maybe the third
because
one.
I am utterly insane. That's why. But the reason why is because that you are not watching John Carpenter's Halloween. And
for
you
sure.
know that you are watching a vision that is straight out of Rob Zombie, and I know that he had a horrible time making Halloween 2 because of the Weinsteins, and they wound up changing so much of his vision. He wound up just I don't know if you ever listened to that interview, but he like lost his shit on them. And then the Weinsteins were like, "All right, you're like me. You're a bloodsucker. You know, make this movie you went into, bloodsucker." And he's like, "Ugh." So he just kind of, you know, he talked about this in this interview they gave for, I think, I want to say it was for Full Moon, their podcast, and he said that like just hearing him talk about how like we're all bloodsuckers and you're a bloodsucker just like me. Do your movie, man. And he was like, oh, because he didn't like the way anybody that the Weinsteins treated anybody, because they weren't pleasant people to work with anyways. However, that's a whole nother story. But I
like two. I like two better than I like one.
They shot that here in Georgia, if you didn't know.
Two?
Yeah, that was shot in Covington.
That's right. That's right.
And I liked. I never saw El Super Bisto, but I liked where he was. I thought that the Lords of Salem, it was going to a place that was tolerable, and then it just went nowhere. It just, I mean, then you turned into King Diamond jerking off with the Pope looking at him, and it's like, I don't understand where this movie is going. And one of the things that really bothers me about Rob Zombie movies, and like I said, I just went on and talked about how much I loved him for the last 5 minutes. Same thing with Eli Roth. I love his movies. Why is your wife naked in every movie that you make? I get it. Like, I mean, mad props. Sherry Moon Zombie, she's a beautiful woman. Dude, your movie is opening up on your wife butt naked, sitting on a bed. And you're like, that they're sitting in the editing room and they're sitting there going like, the editor's like, Mr. Zombie, I don't think we need 5 minutes.
Mr. Zombie.
And he's like, and he's like, all right, make it 6 minutes. And it's just like, it doesn't, like, none of this stuff like makes any sense. Like, it's the same thing like with Eli Roth. Like, if anybody saw Knock Knock, the beginning of Knock Knock is phenomenal. Some of the best cinematography in horror history.
Yeah.
It's almost like 7 or 8 minutes of watching Eli Roth's wife getting banged by Keanu Reeves. Okay. I don't need to watch that. And that, like, as a viewer, you're like, why am I watching this man? Because we all knew that was his wife watching the movie. And you're like, why would you do that? Like, I wouldn't put my wife in a movie like that. Why would you? And it takes a strange, you watch the movie, you're like, he's sitting there in the editing bay being like, all right, so I'm going to have my wife, talking about the Green Inferno now. I'm going to have my wife stark raving nude in front of a bunch of villagers. And then we're going to have a claw go up and blood comes out. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, is there a reason to have this close up on the nipples?
Well, I think they split up. I want to say they split up before the Green Inferno was completed.
From my recollection, they split in 2021, maybe 2020.
Maybe that's right. Yeah, because he's married to someone now. I don't know who. The Italian lady.
Yeah.
Talked about her on some podcast. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, not to be too off topic, but I mean, like the swinger thing, man. Like there's lots of people that are into the swapping and swinging, and it's whatever. I'm not for me, dude. But I think Rob Zombie, in his case, I don't know that he wants everyone to see his wife naked, but he wants to work with his wife. Like, he obviously wants to have her around all the time, and they like working together. Even if I thought 3 from Hell was pretty good, and the main reason I thought it was pretty good is because, like, Sherry acted pretty well in it. Like, 31 is unwatchable. Like, you might as well just put it on in the background at the Halloween party and go, oh, it's the little, the little Nazi person, or, oh, it's the 2 dudes with the chainsaw wieners, or, whatever's going on. It's not good. The dialogue is, I mean, slasher movie dialogue and grindhouse movie dialogue isn't always good, but like the dialogue in that movie's insufferable. Acting is bad. He's just in love with this like completely like bleached out like trailer trash desert look. I don't know why. It didn't have, House of a Thousand Corpses is very dirty looking. Devil's Rejects has that start to that look of like Hills Have Eyes changed my life, everybody. And then he just keeps going back to it after that. But I hated 31 so bad. I don't have a ton of hope for whatever he does next. The Munsters was it was a movie. I watched it with my kids. They thought it was pretty cool. But
I liked it, and it was because it was for kids.
Yeah. You didn't have to explain a lot. There wasn't a lot of depth. There was absolutely no meat on those bones whatsoever. I did meet Daniel Roebuck, though, that played Grandpa. And Daniel Roebuck is like, I met him in Atlanta, by the way, at Monsterama Con down there. He's been in tons and tons of stuff. He was in 31. He's at the one watchable scene of that movie is where Richard Brake is telling this priest he's going to kill him and all this stuff, and talking about eating popcorn in hell or what. That line is stupid, but like that scene is really good. That's Daniel Roebuck as the priest. He's a monster kid, like him as Grandpa was like perfect. But Sherry Moon Zombie, it didn't bother me as much, but like every time she was on the screen going, my wife's up there like making fun of her and stuff, and I'm just like, it's a stupid movie. Just let it happen. It's not offensive. It's fine. It looks cool. It feels like it was shot to be internet shorts. And then they're like, shove that shit together and call it a movie, bro.
Yeah.
All right. We have almost hit the 2-hour mark. Chris, everybody go check out Christopher Kelly on YouTube. You can search at CLK264. It's also been running in that ticker at the bottom if you guys were paying attention there. Also on Instagram at Classic American Movies for his looks like a pretty new Instagram account for his podcast of the same name.
I did it just today, and I said I never did it for the longest time because I was never expecting to have the podcast really continue on, but it has. So, and people love it. So I'm still getting high numbers. I'm really trying to get advertising. If anybody out there wants to give me some advertising,
get this man a sponsor.
I don't have anything. It's literally all done by me, and I use all Spreaker free ads. So,
oh
wow. No one sponsored me. I've tried. I've reached out to everybody you can even imagine. I even use a Suavecito pomade, and they weren't even interested. If you've ever, the reason why I bring that up is because they use a lot of horror themes with their pomade.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that. They've been advertised to me. And Bones Coffee, dude. I gotta tell you, I have one sponsor. I have Fright Rags. They sponsor the show. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Fright Rags. Fright-rags.com. Use code SpookyDudes10. Support the show. Thanks. Those guys are awesome. And I emailed everybody you could think of, dude. Like every single horror adjacent. The only 2 companies that got back to me were Fright Rags, and that's one because I'm friends with the owner, and 2, Shudder of all places. I got to speak to like the VP of marketing, and they basically just said it's not a good time, but to like, cultivate the audience a little more and come back in a couple months. And I just never did. But yeah, Shudder will actually respond, and they may give you like a code and stuff to run, and maybe a little bit of money to help with advertising.
All right. Well, I'll reach out to that. Thank you for that. I'll do that.
No worries. Yeah. None of the other companies ever wrote back to me, and I was just like, whatever, man. It's a bummer.
Well, it was great talking to you, man. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I will have you on. Eli Roth with Chris Kelly. It's written on the back of this paper. So as long as I don't throw this legal pad away, we're going to do that show. We're going to do it anyway. You and I have steel trap minds, my friend.
Excellent. All right. Well, then I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for having me on, guys. Please check out my podcast, Classic American Movies. New episodes are dropping all the time. I do interviews. My latest one was with James Marandino, which came out today. That's the man who did SLC Punk, as well as Witchcraft 4.
Oh yes, that's our audience loves that kind of stuff.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, thank you, man. I'll see you next time.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody else, stay spooky, my dudes. Now I have to click the thing twice. There we go.